And hello, we're back. Thanks everybody. Had some issues with OBS earlier, so hopefully getting all of those sorted out nice and early. Thank you for that catch. Hello to Track, welcome to Trackalicious. Happy Friday. I'm Kuja. We have round 2 at Spa this evening in the LMU GT3 championship ahead of us. Qualifying is just about to get started. Hope you're all doing well this evening. Happy Friday. Let's get to the action here at Le Mans Ultimate. Let's head to the qualifying session. Currently got drivers going out for their outlaps. So it's only a matter of time until the drivers begin to set their valid lap attempts. Gelson Cruz here in the Team WRT number 46. Warming up the tires early on, even in the pits here, as we begin the qualifying session. 15-minute session. All of the GT3s are able to go out and set their flying lap attempts. As Gelson Cruz here goes down the Kemmel straight. He is starting his outlap, as is pretty much every other driver, apart from a few still waiting in the pits to get things started. Alex Hansen in the TF Sport Corvette. A little bit further ahead down the lap, going through the final sector, as he is going through the very quick, infamous Blanchimont corner. The flat left-hander in the GT3s coming to the end of the lap to start his flying lap attempt. My goodness, the camera glitched out there for a second, but let's say, I was going to say, we'll ride on board with Alex Hansen for the first sector of the lap, going through to turn 1 at La Source. Very tight hairpin, one of the slowest points of the track. Going down the hill, a slight kink to the right is technically turn 2 before turn 3 and 4. Eau Rouge and Radion. Turn 3, Eau Rouge here to the left before charging up the hill to the right and taking all of the curbing he can to the left. Hopefully not running too wide, keeping it within track limits as he goes up the hill. Just slightly up the hill here down the Kemmel straight. The top speed is reached at the end here by the Corvette as he approaches the Lecombe complex at turn 7, 8, and 9. The right, left, or excuse me, the right, left, and then right complex at Lecombe, following the Kemmel straight before going down the hill into the Bruxelles hairpin. Very tight right-hander, very tricky to get the power down as the turn keeps breaking away from you, but Alex Hansen able to keep it under control there as he goes through Jackie Ick's quarter, again down the hill, the double left-hander at Pouon, turn 12 before entering another tricky complex, a right and then a left chicane, heavy on the brakes, down a few gears, throws the car in, and the balance of the rear just unable to keep the grip. These GT3 cars are very susceptible to side-by-side, or side-to-side movement, I should say, so it's very tricky for them to get the power down effectively, as no drivers are currently on the board yet. Brandon Pfeiffer in the JMW 66 Ferrari going through the final sector here. We'll see if he is on a valid lap attempt as he goes through the flat-out Blanchimont corner before the braking zone at the bus stop chicane. It has transformed from a bus stop chicane to more of a traditional right-left chicane, but nonetheless still named that. As Brandon Pfeiffer goes up to the line, he goes currently setting a time of second place, about 1 second off of the pole position time set by Arced at the top. Santos behind able to put in a valid lap, as is Hansen, despite his spin at the Fania chicane. Now, Jake Terrell, how high can he climb in the Team WRT 46? Was setting pretty good time in practice. A 2:22.42 is now the provisional pole time to beat, as there are times continuing to pile in. Lester Banks in the Montai Porsche gets a time good enough for 6th place for the time being. Up next, we have Ben Swindon fighting for track position with a bunch of cars around there, and he is just gonna have to pull out of this flying lap attempt, as there was chaos ensuing all around him. But nonetheless, times continuing to pull in. Arcton 2nd, Sanabria in 3rd, and Cruz now up into 2nd place. The 4 BMWs up on top, and now Mauro Leitao in the 46 BMW here. How high can he find himself after crossing the line here in qualifying? Unfortunately, not. Oh, he is there. He is up in 8th place for the number 46. So that is a good time to find himself in the top 10 for the time being. The helicopter getting covered by the trees here as Kevin Conboy goes through the final chicane for him to try and set his first valid lap of the qualifying session. Just about halfway through the session, so still a little bit of time left on the board for the drivers to try and get that time they are chasing. Currently 19th is the best that Kevin Conboy can set. So let's tune in with Josh Popov, currently in 7th place in the number 31 BMW. We can ride on board with the BMW. The BMW in front, just running a little bit wide, dipping a wheel into the grass there, as he was trying desperately to get that time set to find the grip. But this here is the number 31 of Josh Popov, sitting in the top 10 in 7th, but can he solidify his position and maybe even find himself up higher in the top 5? A bit of a wiggle from the BMW in front, and a bit of wiggle from Josh himself as he tries to find all of the speed he can, going up to the line in the BMW, up into 6th place, just outside of the top 5 for the time being. Now you have Nitin M in the Proton Racing Mustang, charging up to the line, currently sitting in 16th place. Can he find himself potentially up in the top 10? 15th is the best time that the Mustang can do, and immediately push back down to 16th as the times continue to tumble all the way through the field. Ilpo Rutsalainen now up into 2nd place in the 46 BMW. He will pull off to the side of the road and get some new tires on the BMW and go out for another session to try and improve his time. Jay Shawlington in the United Autosport 95 McLaren, currently 17th, up to the line, improves up to 16th. So just a little bit of time can find a big improvement, as the times are pretty tight all the way throughout the field so far. One Bigley in the Proton Racing, number 88, currently just outside the top 20 in 22nd place. But if he can find that slight improvement, he will certainly have a big jump, potentially seeing himself move up into the top 15. Currently 32 cars in the session, so it is very crucial to find a bit of gaps between the cars as one Bigley goes up to the line here in the Mustang, and he does go into the top 20. In 17th now is the Mustang. Here we have Joshua Hildenbrand, Team WRT, being heavily represented here tonight. Lots of BMWs on the grid. And we'll have a look back at the leaderboard. Jake Terrell still on top at 2:20.242, the time to beat. Ilpo Ritzalainen in second. Alex Hansen in the Corvette in third. Cruz in fourth. Arcs in fifth. Sanabria in sixth. Rocco in seventh. Popov in eighth. Pfeiffer in ninth. And then Johnson rounds out the top 10, but actually getting pushed out as Hildenbrand finds a time good enough for eighth place, pushing down a few names there. Popov, Pfeiffer, Banks ahead of Johnson now as well. Wicks in 13th, Leitao in 14th, Santos 15th, the Cheese Man, Jason Provolone in 16th, Brown 17th, Angel Infante in 18th, One Bigley in 19th. Then in 20th, you have Jay Shawlington in 21st, Bono Vox, then Nitin M, Shadow Governor, Lloyd Stepniak, and Kevin Conboy, excuse me, all on the board with valid laps. Thank you for the follow there. Much appreciate the support here. Hope you're enjoying the LMU stream so far. It is LMU, not ACC this time around. As Ben Swindon here in the heart of racing, number 27 Aston. No time on the board yet for the Aston driver, but things may change as he rounds out the final corner and charges to the start finish line. How high can the Aston find himself? Up in the top 15. Time good enough for 12th position at the moment. Nick Johnson here in 14th, just beginning his flying lap attempt after getting pushed out of the top 10, now sits in 14th place, but just a couple of tenths of an improvement will find him moving up the field quite drastically. Rocky Rocco, the 777 D-Station Racing Aston, just outside the top 5 in 7th. Looking to improve that, but that slight bit of a wiggle on the exit might not help that too much, as he cannot improve on the lap and will stay in 7th place for the time being. Bono Vox in 23rd in the 88 Proton Racing Mustang, coming up to the line. Rounding out Blanchimont, now just the chicane to go. Turns 19 and 20. Taking the curbs very heavily in the first part, rounding out the second part to get nice and smooth on the power. How high can the Ford get up the leaderboard? Pushed down to 24th, but finds those places back and gets back up into 22nd place. Elliott Brown just behind across the line, moving up into 13th place in the 81 TF Sport Corvette. Less than 2 minutes to go, so this will be the last flying lap attempt for the drivers who do come across the line to start their last attempt now. And it seems like most of our drivers are indeed out on track, trying to improve their position for the race lined up ahead. Carlos Guzman up to the line. No valid time on the board yet, but that could yet change. And with a valid lap, he finds himself in 20th place. And so times are now desperate with the time ticking down. It is now or never to try and get those laps completed. Angel Infante here in the United Auto Sport number 95. Looking to move up the order, getting pushed out of the top 20. Sitting in 21st for the time being. But he is on a lap, and he might just get across the line before the checkered flag, so he will have one more attempt. Unless he is satisfied with this one. Infante up into 8th place, gets himself into the top 10, and still has one lap to go to try and improve things. Ilpo Ruotsalainen taking pole position, or provisional pole position on his last lap attempt, 1900ths. or 19 thousandths, excuse me, getting all my times mixed up here. 19 thousandths clear of Jake Terrell, who is in the pits. So no improvements possible from Jake, who is just sitting in the pits and hoping the drivers around him do not improve. But Ilpo was able to do it, but the oversteer there, finding himself in the gravel at the inside of Lake Combe in a bit of a dangerous spot. The Ford having to go around there, but he finds himself on provisional pole in the BMW for the time being. Timer at 0. This is the last lap attempt for all these drivers. Elliott Brown across the line, 15th, is the best he can go. Up next, Arlen Santos in the Proton Racing, not happy with his lap, so he just dives back into the pit lane. Shadow Governor doing the same thing, not quite happy with that last lap attempt, so he will dive back into the pits. Nick Johnson, though, coming up to the line, or coming up to Blanchimont, exiting the Paul Frere curve before looking to carry as much speed as he can here. Through the curb camera he goes. Nick Johnson, a few corners left for him to try and improve on his position just outside the top 15 at the moment. Can he jump himself higher in the standings and maybe even into the top 10? A bit of a wiggle on the exit up to the line now. Where can Nick Johnson go in the BMW? 16th will be the best he can go. Just a few drivers behind can try and change that. Just about everybody else in the pit lane currently. One Bigley out on a lap, and he is approaching the chicane for his final flying lap attempt. Oh, and a bit of an oversteer, and I say a bit, a huge oversteer moment, finding himself losing it there. Angel Infante sneaking his way through in a top 10 position, but looking to improve, still goes into 5th place. And last but not least, Alex Hansen was out on track, but he was unable to improve on his lap attempt, just going into the pits. And with that, we have our grid set for the race ahead. 45 minutes of action to come. 15-minute qualifying just completed around the 4.3 mile Spa-Francorchamps circuit. As we wait for how did the GT3 take Eau Rouge? From my experience, they take it pretty well. They take it pretty well. You can pretty much do it flat. And yeah, that's about my experience, I would say, so far. So we'll just wait for the grid to set for the time being, and then we will remind ourselves of the grid once everyone comes out of the pit lane. Out in front, you have Ilpo Ruotsalainen setting his qualifying lap at the last minute there, stealing it from Jake Terrell, who had the provisional pole time early on and kind of held on to it, but was unable to hold it on to the end because Ilpo took it away from him. And up next, you have Alex Hansen in the TF Sport Corvette, with Gelson Cruz behind him in the 46. Angel Infante stealing a top 5 position at the last second of qualifying. So his McLaren lines up on the 3rd row in 5th, and he will have Arced for company in the 31 BMW. Javier Sanabria in the other BMW lines up behind him in the 46. Then you have Rocky Rocco in the 777D Station Racing in 8th place. Then Brandon Pfeiffer in the JMW Ferrari
formation lap has started.
Is in 9th. Joshua Hildenbrand in 10th. Josh Popov in 11th. Lester Banks in 12th. Ben Swindon in 13th. Mauro Leitao in 14th. Elliott Brown 15th. Oh, excuse me there. Nick Johnson in 16th. Darren Wick 17th. Arlen Santos in 17th, or in 18th. Excuse me, Jason Provolone, the Cheese Man, in 19th. Thomas Baker in 20th. Carlos Guzman in 21st. One Bigley in 22nd. Then behind you have Bono Vox. Then Jay Shawlington. Shadow Governor in 25th. Nitin M behind. Then Buggy Watt. Then Lloyd Stepniak. Then Kevin Conboy, T. Ducharme, Patrick DeBow, and Bunta Fujiwara and Jacob Palmieri round out our grid. The grid is set. They round out the bus stop And now they come up to the line where the green flag releases them for the 45 minutes of racing we have ahead. Great start from the Corvette of Alex Hansen, already on the inside of, oh, and there's a big crash in the background. A BMW goes flipping in the background. That was absolute carnage there in the back. Not quite sure what happened, but the BMW losing a wing, rolling, and Alex Hansen actually losing the position here to Gelson Cruz. The two BMWs in front trying to go side by side, but Jake Terrell able to get the position for the lead. Ilpo Ritzalainen will have to slot back into second, but he has the slipstream going down the Kemmel straight. The three BMWs tucking in bumper to bumper. Ilpo with the slipstream pulls to the outside. Jake Terrell defending the inside. They're going three wide in the background there. Gelson Cruz having a look to the inside. They're side by side behind for second and third place. Can Ilpo hold on to second? Gelson Cruz has the inside. They're bumper to bumper, tapping Ilpo a wheel into the gravel. Alex Hansen trying to sneak through in the Corvette, but there is just no room given to the inside. He will tuck back in behind, but Ilpo opening the door just a little bit here through turn number 12. Or excuse me, turn number 10. But nonetheless, Alex Hansen hanging it around the outside. Now down the hill, they charge the 777 of Rocco looking to get involved as Ilpo can't find the grip on the inside. The Corvette going around the outside into that final podium position. And just behind the Aston Martin, that is Javier Sanabria trying to make up ground, but there is just no room for him to go. Great defensive line thrown up by the 777. And through the campus complex they go. Double right-hander coming up, followed by a pretty good straightaway for the drivers to try and take advantage of the position in front. Big slipstream followed by a big braking zone through Blanchimont. Can Javier find that top 5 position here? Nearly bumper to bumper as they go into the entry. The BMW just having to tap the brakes. So difficult to follow, and Angel Infante behind. Nearly losing it after dropping a few places from the start. Starting from 5th, now back into 7th place. The Aston Martin having a look down the inside, but just no room given there. And that on the inside was Gelson Cruz, probably with a bit of an oversteer moment, now having to defend from Alex Hansen for second place. Gelson Cruz defending the inside. The over-under might just get done from the Corvette as Alex Hansen has a look to the inside. Through turn 2 they go, and it's gonna be side by side up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion they go. Oh, and Gelson Cruz trying to hang on around the outside, losing the car, and on the roof is the BMW. No, it just went from bad to worse there, and Alex Hansen having to cut the corner, losing the places to Ilpo, to Rocky, and to Javier Sanabria. So Alex Hansen, after that side-by-side move, trying to take the second place away from Cruz, drops back to 5th place, and that was absolute chaos with the BMW finding himself on the roof. Man, it is so hard to keep up with 30 cars out on track. There's just so much action between the top 10 for the time being. It is hard to look elsewhere as Rocky Rocco in the 777 Aston Martin looking to gain ground. Ilpo Rutsalainen back into a podium position, but he has lost a lot of time to Jake Terrell in front, who has a 4-second lead from Ilpo. But we know the pace that Ilpo can have in the BMW, but unfortunately they are reporting that they might have to do a double stop unless they save on that virtual energy, the BMWs that is. So we'll just have to wait and see how the strategies play out in the 45-minute race. There is a 2x fuel consumption, and so we will just have to wait and see how all of that plays out when the time comes. But Alex Hansen is now right on the tail of Sanabria for 4th place, coming out of Blanchimont. Is he gonna have a look to the inside? He's thinking about it, but he's just not close enough yet to send the move. But in front, Sanabria just caught off by the braking of the Aston Martin, and in fact, It is Rocky Rocco who might lose the places here, diving to the, or defending the inside position here rather. Now tucks back to the racing line. Alex Hansen in the Corvette, sneaking a nose in. Can he get the move done? Javier Sanabria having to defend from the Corvette before he can look ahead to the Aston Martin. And while these cars are battling, it is allowing Infante just that little bit closer in the 95 McLaren behind. Oh, and there's nearly side-by-side Alex Hansen losing it through Eau Rouge. Is he able to keep it out of the wall? He's back on the racing line. Can the drivers behind get through the chaos there? It looked like they were able to go through. I think Arc just had to lift there to let Alex, to not get into Alex Hansen. But that was nearly a side-by-side battle between, I believe that was... Man, who was that? There was a side-by-side battle going on behind the leaders there. But nonetheless here, Mauro Leitao up into 6th place, Arced in 7th, Swindon in 8th, Santos in 9th, and then Brown in 10th in the Corvette, just in the background of the shot there. And it sounded like there was a bit of contact going on in the background there. Hopefully all is well. We've got a couple of DNFs on the board already, unfortunately, after some cars just went absolutely flipping from the beginning. Unfortunately, we can't get a replay of the race start. We'll just have to check all of that later on, just ahead of this battle. Javier Sanabria trying to get that final podium position away from the 777 of Rocky Rocco, and they themselves have found a bit of a gap to Ilpo Rutsalainen, finding 2.5 seconds clear of this final podium position battle, but still the gap opening up to Jake Terrell. It is up from 4 to 4.4 seconds. Thank you for the follow. Hope you're enjoying the action here so far in round 2 in the GT3 championship so far. Round 2 of 3, combining the 2 splits tonight. The Aston going into the pits, the 777 coming in early to fill up on the virtual energy, and that will release Javier Sanabria and Angel Infante into a bit of clean air as they continue their battle for that final podium position and 4th and 5th place, with the 777 diving into the pits. That will promote a lot of these drivers up a few places. You have Leitao now in a top 5 position, followed by Arced, then Ben Swindon here in the heart of racing Aston Martin, the 27 behind the 2 BMWs, looking to gain ground, nearly taking off through the crest at Radion. But unfortunately for him, the BMW in front also has the slipstream advantage, so he is just not able to close that gap as effectively as he would like for the time being. But in the braking zone, the Aston seeming very strong, able to nearly get bumper to bumper as they enter the first part of Lake Combe, but the BMW really strong on the power here. And again, using the slipstream of teammate Mauro Leitao in front. Well, I say teammate, they're just both in BMWs, but they could be complete rivals out on track, as Ben Swindon will look to capitalize on those opportunities, as will Arlen Santos, not too far off in the distance in the 777 Ford. One Bigley finds himself up in 11th place, putting pressure on the top 10 position. That is Thomas Baker in front of him in the 27 Aston Martin. So can one Bigley find the move? He's looking to the inside at the exit of Fania, but he's just not able to get the move done just yet. Might just have to wait until the bus stop. Needs to get a good exit out of Stavolo, going through the curve. Paul Frere running a little bit wide, dipping a few wheels into the gravel. That will slow his pace down just a little bit, but he has the effective slipstream from the Aston Martin in front, and it looks like he has a great overspeed advantage as they approach Blanchimont, having a look down the inside, perhaps just trying to throw the Aston Martin off, but nonetheless having to lift there as he tried to get a little bit close and into the braking zone of the bus stop. He's just not close enough to send the move just yet. gap in front on this previous lap has closed down considerably. It was up to 4.4 seconds at the highest. It is now down to 3.2 between Jack Terrell and Ilpo Ruotsalainen, with Sanabria falling back a further 2 seconds. The gap is now up to nearly 5 as he has Angel Infante behind him within slipstream range, so the McLaren is certainly applying the pressure onto that final podium position that Sanabria currently occupying. But of course, we will still have to wait and see where those pit stops come in. Thank you for the raid there, B Fife. I hope you had a great stream earlier on. Thanks for joining us here at round 2 in the GT3 LMU Championship around Spa-Francorchamps this evening. Big grid started, unfortunately. Bit of chaos early on. Saw a bit of cars have to retire early. 24 cars still running here. But nonetheless, Angel Infante trying to get those final, or get that final podium position, I should say. And just behind on track, Arced in the BMW, fighting teammate in the BMW in front, Leitao. This is for the top 5 positions for the time being before any pit stops are completed. As he goes through the curve, Paul Frere much more effectively than Leitao in front. It looks like there's a great overspeed advantage for Arced, but going side by side through Blanchimont, very dangerous. Both cars will lose a huge amount of speed going through there side by side, and Arced just decides the better of it and tucks behind for the time being. But in doing so, he just is not close enough to get the gap closed into the bus stop chicane, as that allows the Aston Martin of Swindon to try and close in on this top 5 battle. Back behind, you have Ducharme in the 81 TF Sport, trying to climb up into the top 15, potentially currently in 17th, having a bit of a look to the inside. The rear brakes glowing hot on the Corvette, running a little bit wide, sparking the car, running over the outside sausage curb, finding himself in the gravel, certainly slowing him down. A very crucial part of the track to get the speed right, as you need to carry it all up the hill through Eau Rouge and Radion, all the way up the Kemmel Straight. Fortunately for him, he will have the slipstream from the Ford in front, but it just will not get close enough into the braking zone before turn 7 at Lake Combe, and he will have to just tuck in and hopefully find a different overtaking position to try and get by. This battle for the top 5 continuing on. Angel Infante just dropping back a little bit from Sanabria. The gap opening to 1.2 seconds in that battle for the final podium position, as Arced running a little bit wide here. It looked like Leitao having the grip much more effectively through Pouon. The downhill double left-hander, very fun corner to take. Arced running a little bit wide into the gravel on the exit of Fania before Stavolo, and that will hurt his chances of once again trying to get close to the BMW, but they seem absolutely evenly matched on pace. The BMW in front, though, dipping a wheel into the gravel once again. Arced now looking to the inside of Blanchimont, flat out, side by side. He gets the move done before the corner. Great momentum carried from Arced, running a little bit wide on the exit, though. Hopefully not picking up a track limit violation, but nonetheless, the move was sealed at the exit of the curve. Paul Frere with Leitao running a little bit wide and now finding himself under pressure from the Aston Martin of Ben Swindon. A bit of a wiggle on the exit, finding the Aston Martin nearly bumper to bumper as the Aston looks to the outside. Just couldn't quite get the power down effectively, and now Arlen Santos looking to sneak a nose in front of the Aston after running a little bit deep in La Source. He just wasn't quite able to get the power, effectively dragging the splitter as the load changes on the car from going downhill to charging back up the hill. The change in direction too, really putting a huge load on that front left side. You can see the Mustang splitter just sparking up as he goes up there through the infamous Eau Rouge and Raidillon. Jake Terrell has a pretty comfortable gap at the front, still 2.5 seconds, but it is closing by the lap. Ilpo had that gap up to 4.4 seconds at one point, but Ilpo, very skilled driver, having pole position by 19 thousandths of a second. It was very close between these two. He is closing the gap, not by much every lap, but it is closing. It was about 3.2 seconds last time we checked in, and with just under 30 minutes left in the race, there is still plenty of time for Ilpo to try and gain that time back. Looking a bit back, this is the battle for 13th, 14th, and 15th between Fujiwara, Popov, and Hansen. Fujiwara qualifying near the back of the grid, finding himself up in 13th place at the time being, unless Josh Popov here in the Team WRT 31 BMW can change anything about it. And Alex Hansen still in the race after that spin at the top of the hill at Eau Rouge and Raidillon, the BMW dipping a wheel into the grass. We've seen it on the previous lap from the front-running BMWs of Arct and Leitao, and now Josh Popov doing the same thing, leaving the inside open to the Corvette of Alex Hansen. And Alex Hansen now trying to work his way through the field up into 14th, but the BMW will fight back, trying to brake heavily around the outside, but he can't quite get it done there as the Corvette moving up a place. Not quite sure what that noise was. Maybe a bit of contact from the drivers in front. But nonetheless, Alex Hansen able to get that position. Oh, and that was certainly a bit of a crunch there. Perhaps a wall just hitting a car hitting that inside wall at La Source. Just trying to find the finest of margins to cut and just cutting them a little bit too fine. This is Bono Vox in the 88 Ford under pressure from the Corvette behind of Ducharme. The Corvette, very effective slipstream. Will he have a look to the inside of the braking zone? He does. The BMW in front trying to do the same, but the Corvette just can't find the move out of the slipstream there of the Ford in front, and he himself goes onto the grass, just dips a wheel, but keeping the car nice and settled. Well done there from Ducharme, not letting the car go loose with a few wheels on the exit there at turn 9. And now going back down the hill, can the Corvette find the grip, find the speed it needs to get by the Mustang? This battle has been going on for quite some time, nearly bumper to bumper through the quickest, one of the quickest left-handers on the track down the hill at Pouan. As they approach the Fania complex, the right-hander followed by a left, very tricky to get an overtake lined up through here. But the Corvette trying to do that into the braking zone at Stavolo. Just trying to use the slipstream as we've seen it on the previous laps from the Corvette of Alex Hansen and Arct in the BMW. But the Ford not dipping a wheel into the gravel, making it a little bit difficult for Ducharme to get close and find that move into the final chicane here at Spa. Turns 19 and 20 coming up. Can Ducharme perhaps sneak a nose in, but he's just a little bit too far back to get that move done. Arlen Santos just can't quite close the gap to the 27 Aston Martin in front. That is Guzman. Arlen Santos dropping a place to Carlos Guzman just recently. And now Guzman will try to chase down fellow Aston Martin driver Ben Swindon up in front in 7th place. And he himself not too far back from the battling duo of Leitao and Arct. And in fact, it is Arct who has found a bit of pace in the BMW. He is closing the gap effectively to Angel Infante. That gap is just 1.1 seconds. And Angel still within fighting distance of Sanabria in front, as the BMWs are a very popular choice in the race here this evening. Top 3 are all BMW. Then you have Angel Infante. Then the next 2 BMWs, 2 Astons following. The leading Ford is Santos in 9th. Then Baker in 10th in the Aston Martin. Fujiwara in 11th. Popov in 12th. Vox in 13th. Ducharme in 14th. Alex Hansen is in 15th place. Then you have Jay Shillington, Patrick DeBow, Nitin M in 18th. Lloyd Strepanuk in 19th. Rocky Rocco, after the pit stop, is in 20th place. Then one Bigley, Kevin Conboy in the pit lane. Buggy Watt is in 24th. And that is the last of those still in the race so far. Sorry for my issues. Lap 1, force feedback was snapping and cutting out. Hoping it was just an LMU bug. I have had that happen before, and I think sometimes it is just an LMU thing. And with a lot of cars at the start there, it is pretty heavy load on the computer, so I wouldn't be surprised if the computer prioritized giving you the game rather than the feedback to the wheel. So potentially just something to look into. Come the future races, hopefully for Tuesday and this next Friday. Indeed, my friend. Hope you get those issues sorted. Always happy to have the big grid. It might not even be the graphics card. It might just be a CPU thing, honestly. As here out on track, Carlos Guzman closing the gap very well to Ben Swindon. He is now within attacking distance. And speaking of closing the gap, Jake Terrell has the gap closing on him. Ilpo Rutsalainen within 1.5 seconds of the race lead in the 46 team WRT BMW, chasing down the 46 team WRT BMW. Different liveries being sported though. Jake with the blue and green and white and black flames, and Ilpo with the white and black split BMW here in the race this evening. Cannot afford to upgrade from this. I feel you there, my friend. I absolutely feel you there. I am running all of this stuff on an i5 9700K with a 2070 or 2080 Ti graphics card. So it's not the best either, but it's at least it's able to run it, and we're able to get all this action here for you guys in the race this evening. Ben Swindon opening the gap to Guzman behind. After Guzman actually making it looks like a bit of a mistake, he has lost the place to Santos, as well as the BMW and the Aston both come into the pit lane here, just over halfway mark of the race. So it should just be the one pit stop for the drivers here. Unfortunately, for the drivers that came in a little bit earlier, it might be a bit of a struggle for them to try and get those, or to try and go to the end, I should say, with the fuel that they will have on board. But nonetheless, Bono Vox still out there, still yet to pit. He will inherit the lead of the race in the 88 Proton Mustang. with both Jake Terrell and Ilpo Ruotsalainen coming into the pits. So he will try to get things done and dusted quickly and still come out of his fellow BMW rival behind. Despite them being in the same car, they will surely try to fight it out until the end. Oh, and I missed your question there at the beginning, Eric. There was just a bit of chaos going at the beginning at the start-finish straight. Couldn't quite tell out what happened. It was near the back of the grid, but a BMW eventually did find its way onto its roof in the background, and then the cameras kind of panned away, and we couldn't quite keep up with what happened after that. At least in the back there. So Jake Terrell does come out in front of Ruotsalainen still. The gap opened up pretty effectively between the two BMWs, actually. It's right up around that 4-second mark. So all that work that Ruotsalainen had done earlier on, I should say, coming undone after coming into the pits to top up on the virtual energy. But after Vox will come into the pits here, he will be the last driver remaining, still yet to complete a pit stop. So Jake Terrell effectively still in the lead by about 4.5 seconds over Ilpo Ruotsalainen. Then Javier Sanabria will have third place. He will come under pressure from ARC though. Then you have Infante and Leitao, with Swindon and Arlen Santos battling for those final top 10 positions in the race this evening. So with just under 20 minutes to go here, these are the moments to try and effectively close down those gaps, because of course, as we know, catching up to somebody is one thing, but overtaking is another. So you want to close that gap as quickly as possible so you have as much time to line up any sort of overtaking opportunities that you may have. And ARCT is now getting really close to Sanabria. Vox is in the pits, so this is now the battle for that final podium position. Javier Sanabria holding on to third place, but ARCT with a great bit of race pace displayed earlier on, now fighting for a final podium position here, sliding his BMW out of the final corner. Let's ride on board as they charge down the hill before going up the 18% gradient climb through Eau Rouge and Radion, taking a lot of curb on the left, not so much on the right, and then a bit more as they crest the hill. ARCT, very good line, very good slipstream. Can he dive to the inside? He's lining up the move. Can he get it done? Nearly contact between the two, but ARCT down the inside, and that is Sanabria tucking in behind. So ARCT up into that final podium position. But how hard will Sanabria fight back? Can he have the pace? Does he have the pace to fight back? Down the hill they go. Very effective on the brakes is ARCT at slowing down, and then back on the powered, losing the BMW behind already as they go through Jackie Ick's corner down the hill to Puan. And once again, ARCT showing off that great bit of race pace up into that final podium position here. Has a bit of a gap to Ruotsalainen. It's about 9 seconds he needs to close in about 15.5 minutes. So we'll just have to wait and see what sort of race pace the BMW behind can do. Or can Sanabria fight back and find that little bit of grip, find that little bit of confidence he needs to fight for the final podium position here with 15.5 left on the clock. Ben Swindon still finding himself in the company of the BMW drivers. This is the battle for 6th and 7th place between Ben Swindon in 7th and Mauro Leitao in 6th place in the 46 BMW up in front. Can Ben Swindon line the move up into the chicane? One of the best overtaking opportunities at the track after going through Blanchimont. He's just not close enough. The BMW very confident on the brakes into the bus stop. But Ben Swindon getting a great exit here after finding the BMW in front, struggling for grip. He got a great exit. The BMW taking the defensive line. We might find the over-under move here from the Aston Martin, having to lift a little bit. The BMW cutting off the apex pretty well, so Ben Swindon unable to get the power out of the corner as effectively as he would like, but we've seen it on the previous lap. Can the Aston Martin this time line up a move through the Kemmel Straight? Will ride with the splitter of the Aston Martin. Not quite as close as the BMWs were on the previous lap, but the slipstream is pulling the Aston closer and closer. The BMW diving to the inside. Can Ben Swindon line it up around the outside of the first part? But of course, the inside switches to the outside, then switches again at Lake Combe at the top of the hill. And now back down they go. Ben Swindon just not able to find the room to get into 6th place for the time being. And Rocky Rocco, after that early pit stop, unfortunately finding himself back in 15th place in the D-Station Racing Aston Martin. Thank you for the cheers, Fujian, much appreciated. Thank you for the support from everybody here at Trackalicious. Hope you guys are enjoying what has been a truly action-packed race so far here at Spa. Big grid to start out, losing a fair bit of drivers at the start, unfortunately, but still 23 remaining. Rocky Rocco trying to get the move done on the Mustang in front, but Nitin M is proving a difficult opponent. Unfortunately, they're sliding a little bit wide, can't quite get the grip to the apex. And is this the time for Rocky Rocco to send a move down the inside of Pouon? Side by side through the quick left-hander they go. Very difficult to carry a lot of speed side by side, but both drivers giving each other plenty of room, plenty of respect. Rocky Rocco slides up into 14th. Thank you, Fujin, for the sub. Thank you as well to Swiss Draco. Missed that earlier on. Thank you both for the support at Trackalicious. It means a lot to us being able to put on these broadcasts for you guys. So thank you very much. At the front, Ilpo Rutsalainen closing the gap to within 3.2 seconds of the race lead. But the time is winding down, less than 12 minutes remaining. That gap was around 1.5 seconds before the pit stop, but it opened up to nearly 4 seconds. Perhaps just a bit of a disadvantage for him in his pit garage with cars being all around. Of course, there is no ghosting in the pit lane in Le Mans Ultimate, so any cars that are in the pits are available for contact, so maybe just having to swerve out of the way of a couple of drivers, but nonetheless closing the gap in the closing stages of the race. But will he have enough time left to try and get a move lined up on Jake Terrell, who has the lead of the race? Took it early on and never looked back. At the time being, his mirrors aren't full of BMW, but on this lap, Ilpo able to really close that gap effectively. The gap now down to 2.5 seconds between the two leaders. We will certainly keep our eyes on that, as Ben Swindon still on the back of the BMW in front, not able to find any sort of room to get the move done, to get up into 6th place. Proven to be pretty equally matched here on race pace. Are the duo of Ben Swindon and Mauro Leitao, but unfortunately Mauro, we've seen it a couple times, just dipping a wheel into the grass at the exit of the curve Paul Frere, giving the Aston Martin a bit of a speed advantage, and he wasn't close enough to Blanchimont to have to lift. So now he is able to get close to the bumper into the braking zone, but just not quite close enough. The BMW sliding all over the road, going a little bit wide in the second part of the chicane, and now they go side by side down the start-finish straight. Can they go? How will come out in front after Les Source? The BMW running a little bit deep, covering off the position. The D-State, or the Heart of Racing, not the D-Station, that is the green 777 Aston Martin. This is the Heart of Racing. Ben Swindon having to tuck back in after Les Source after going side by side. Up the hill they go. Can he find the move? Cutting through the top of the hill, looking to get a great overspeed run on the BMW. The BMW already covering off the inside line, not wanting to give any slipstream to the Aston Martin. They're going side by side into the braking zone at Lake Combe. Can the Aston dip a nose in? Not quite enough of a car lengths alongside yet for Ben Swindon to try and get that move on. Friday, thank you for the cheer there. Hope you're all having a great evening here so far. Happy Friday to you folks out there watching along and racing, and everybody in the background doing all the hard work to make this all possible. Hope everyone is having a great Friday night with us here at Trackalicious. Ben Swindon certainly not having the best night, as he is still looking at the bumper of the BMW in front. Just can't find the grip to make a move where it matters on the BMW. But Mauro Leitao in front, just letting a few openings, or a few possibilities open up for the Aston Martin, as he, on the previous lap, dipping a wheel on the exit of curve Paul Frere. Let's see if he can take it cleanly on this go around. We'll look on from the rear bumper of Mauro, very cleanly on the exit there, so not allowing the Aston Martin to close the gap on the exit, on the overspeed at least, but still that slipstream advantage will be very helpful for the Aston Martin behind, trying desperately to get a move done. But once again, a bit of a wiggle there from Ben Swindon, and he finds himself locking up the brakes on the Aston Martin, and he goes into the wall. What happened there? I wonder if he just had his brake bias set a little bit too far back, and as soon as he started pulling the car in one direction, it just snapped on him and he just wasn't able to recover it. That was a very, very odd moment for the Aston Martin. Absolutely great racing between the two to that moment. Great side-by-side battles, but unfortunately coming undone there. This is not the 27 of Ben Swindon. This is Thomas Baker getting through up the field, up into 9th place now. Swindon just outside the top 10 in 11th place after that bit of an incident. Certainly a bit of damage to the front of the car, as he doesn't seem like he's able to take Rouge and Radeon quite as well as he was before. Check on P1, I sure will in a second here. The gap is closing down between the leaders. It's now 1.5 seconds, just as it was before the pit stop phase. And unfortunately here, Ben Swindon, suffering a fair bit of damage to his Aston Martin. So falling back now down into 12th, Jake Terrell dipping a wheel on the exit of turn 16. We've seen it from plenty of drivers before. That is really allowing Ilpo Ruotsalainen to close the gap to Jake Terrell in the lead of the race. It's almost within a second. Ilpo, the closer he gets, the more of a slipstream advantage he will have. So Jake, with those brakes glowing red hot, going through the chicane in the final 6 minutes, will have a lot of defending to do from the fast charging Ilpo Ruotsalainen behind. And perhaps just Ilpo saving a bit of fuel earlier on in the stint to allow himself to push now and Jake Terrell doing the opposite, pushing, I should say, earlier on, and now having to do a bit of fuel saving to let himself across the line within the rules and regulations of the virtual energy. But he is able to get a good exit out of La Source to charge all the way down through the Kemmel Straight. In fact, opening up the gap to 1.5 seconds. Ilpo not able to use the slipstream. Seems like Ilpo quicker in parts of the track than Jake, and of course, if Jake continues to dip a wheel as Ilpo does on this time around, exiting the Lake Combe complex, he will certainly have his work cut out for him come the closing laps of the race. Battle between the two Fords here between Nitin M and Dubois in 13th, as Swindon returns to the pits with that heavy bit of damage to his Aston Martin, losing it in the braking zone at the bus stop chicane. And Nitin M unfortunately just dropping back after the hairpin at La Source. Again, the Fords really dragging their splitters as the gradient changes at Eau Rouge, and Radion going from down to uphill from left to right. The battle for the lead certainly picking up in the closing stages of the race. With the amount of time remaining, we should have enough time for 2 more laps after the leaders cross the line. Currently Jake Terrell out in front, but Ilpo closing the gap. He is within a second. The slipstream will be very helpful if he can get it down to start finish straight here into the braking zone at the hairpin. And then next, he will be able to try and use that slipstream through the Kemmel Straight as well. But again, out of the bus stop and out of La Source, Jake Terrell finding a great bit of pace, opening the gap up over a second so that Ilpo cannot use the slipstream as effectively as he would like. We can see here, riding on board with the lead BMW, how much more speed he can carry through Eau Rouge and Radion. Ilpo just dropping back. Now the gap nearly 2 seconds, costing Ilpo a bunch of time there. And now perhaps after being able to push for so long behind in the Ford, he will have to do a bit of fuel saving to try and get to the end. This is Fujiwara going around the outside of the Ford. That was not for position. The position is in front. That is Arlen Santos in the Ford, trying to hang on to the position, and in fact the McLaren also dragging that whole left side of the car as the car loads up, going through Eau Rouge and Radion. A bit of blue flags underway here as Santos working his way through one of the McLarens. I believe that is the 59 of Convoy, allowing his teammate in the United Autosport to go through and chase down Arlen Santos, but that gap just opening up a little bit, just over a second. Still within touching distance is the McLaren to the Ford in front. Just a bit behind the battle for 9th and 10th between the two 27 Aston Martins, the Heart of Racing teammates, battling here going down the hill. Baker in front of Guzman as they will continue to try and change the pecking order. Just 1 minute remaining in the race. Jake Terrell will be on his last lap when he crosses the start-finish line, and the move in front was done there from Fujiwara, it looked like, as he was trying to go around the outside. Oh no, that was the Ford of blue flagged Ford there, I believe. So that was not for position. The position is for the blue Ford in front, as Thomas Baker and Carlos Guzman now go side by side. Guzman is in front, currently holding on to that 9th place, and he gets the move done before Blanchimont even So great overspeed run from Guzman, able to get the move over Baker. So Baker now, and we can see the Aston really wiggling on the rear end of the braking zone. So perhaps just an Aston Martin feature, so to say, having to go really far to the rear end to try and stop the car effectively. As Guzman, yeah, you can see those rear brakes just lighting up so much more than the fronts. So that battle has closed off a little bit here. Nitin M in the Proton Racing. If the trees could just get out of our shot there. Thank you very much. Nitin M trying to get through the Ford in front. He might have the look to the inside going down the start-finish straight. There is a yellow flag out on track. Hopefully not too much damage done there, but the Ford unable to get the move done into the braking zone as our leaders are going through the final sector now. The gap closing down within a second. Is Jake Terrell running out of virtual energy in the BMW to make it to the line? Has he saved enough? Has Ilpo saved more? And is he now able to really push Jake Terrell to the end? The gap closing and closing between the leaders. Can Terrell hold on in the 46 through Blanchimont? Just 2 corners left. 1 braking zone at the bus stop. Can Jake Terrell hold on to the lead? The gap shrinking, the BMW just not close enough of Ruotsalainen. Jake Terrell with a slide out of the corner. Ilpo certainly making it close, but Jake Terrell holds on to take the win in round 2 at Spa with Ilpo across the line within 0.1 of a second. For second place, Arced with great race pace, able to take third, close the gap pretty well to the leaders as well. To the end there, Javier Sanabria holds on to 4th place, and Angel Infante here across the line in 5th. Mario Leitao able to hold on to 6th, with the battle continuing here between Santos and Fujiwara. Can Santos get the exit he needs? Good bit of grip on the exit, not allowing Fujiwara to get close, and those two will be separated by nearly nothing as they cross the line, but Santos holds on to 7th place. Fujiwara will come across the line in 8th. Guzman with a last ditch effort to get by Baker, who will finish in 10th place. Then Josh Popov next across the line in 11th place. In the 31 BMW, he will cross the line just outside the top 10. Then Rocky Rocco, after taking the early pit stop in the D Station Racing Aston Martin. Good recovery though, up into 12th place. Patrick DeBow trying to hang on to the position from Nitin M, from Alex Hansen. This battle for 13th, 14th, and 15th separated by about a second as they cross the line. So great battles all the way up and down the field. Lloyd Strepanuk up next in 16th, going through Blanchimont. The drivers who have already crossed the line, you have Shillington in 17th, Ducharme in 18th, Kevin Conboy in 19th, Bono Vox rounds out the top 20, then Ben Swindon after that incident in the bus stop finds himself in 21st, and Buggy Watt 22nd of the finishers to take the checkered flag. And there is Lloyd in the 46 BMW taking the checkered flag in 16th place. Bit of chaos earlier on at the start. Bit of the grid lost to mechanical troubles, but hopefully they will all be back for next week's edition of the race at the Le Mans circuit. The circuit famous for hosting the 24-hour of Le Mans race. Of course, Spa also hosts the famous 24 hours of Spa coming up at the end of the month here. We got a fun triple header of 24 hours. You've got the 24-hour of Le Mans coming up next weekend. Then in 2 weeks, or a week after that, you have the Nürburgring 24-hour. And the week after that, the last week of June, is the Spa 24-hour. So a triple header of 24 hours coming up in real life racing. So that will be super fun to see. We'd like to invite our podium finishers to join us in the green room for a quick chat here. And yeah, we'll get a quick chat, quick view from their perspective to see just how the race went this evening. Jake Terrell already knows the drill. Let's pull our race winner in. Hello, Jake. Happy Friday. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty freaking good right now. I'll tell you what.
Yeah, you guys said you got the lead early on and kind of never looked back. Tell us about that.
Well, starting off qualifying, losing pole position by basically 200s kind of sucked. And then race start again, just trying to be aggressive enough and hold track position and assert dominance early on, and I think that was something that I did. And I don't know what was really going on behind me, but they started to battle a lot, and it gave me a little bit of a buffer to push a bit. And then once I had a bit of a gap, I was able to fuel save a good bit. And going into the pits, Ilpo was coming up on me, and I needed a crucial pit because when I crossed the line, he was only 7/10 behind. And coming through the pits, I fueled the perfect amount, hit the box perfect, and on pit exit, I got held up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure Ilpo got held up more than me. And then through the second stint, towards the very end, maybe second to last lap, he had a little bit of a bobble, and from there I was able to bring it home. But the last 6 laps, man, I was nervous. I was nervous.
I was keeping my eyes on that gap the whole time, and like you said, it was up to around 4.5 seconds after Ilpo was able to kind of work his way after the bit of a mistake early on, and then it shrunk down to nearly 1 second before the pit stop, and then it grew again, and then it shrunk right again towards the end. So it was super interesting to keep our eyes on that battle, and yeah, you were able to hold off and take it home there.
Yeah, it was definitely a hard fought battle, for sure. He definitely did a better job of keeping his tires alive. I was struggling pretty bad with understeer towards the end, but it was a great race tonight. I'm pretty okay with the pace that I had. Fastest lap of the race again. Let's go.
Let's go, indeed.
It's just it was I was coming into this race feeling underprepared, but I was I would keep underestimating myself, and it feels good to be back up on the podium and be able to stand on the top step again. So feels good.
Yeah, certainly indeed. I believe you finished on the podium in the Tuesday race as well, right?
Yeah, so Tuesday race, I brought it home at Coda in P1, and last Friday race, even though it was dropped, I was in P2 at the end of that race. So I'm having a good season so far.
Yeah,
hopefully,
right.
Hopefully keeps up.
Yeah, getting used to Le Mans Ultimate, I'm sure too, with and with that big update that's supposed to come in the next week. Also, that should certainly really mix the grid up come Spa, with everybody still getting used to all of the new features and updates that are coming out. So that will certainly be something to look forward to.
Yeah, the new tires that are coming are definitely going to play a big role, and everybody's going to be scrambling for setups, and everybody's going to be scrambling to find the pace on the new tires, and it should be interesting for sure.
Cool. Yeah, I'm looking forward to all that super exciting news from Le Mans Ultimate, as always. Looking forward to the updates. Hopefully everything runs smoothly from the get-go and we're able to kind of get the full benefit of it right away. So yeah, and again, congrats on that top finishing position, able to get it home from early on and never looked back.
Thank you. It was a great race. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. We'll move you back here to the green room. Doesn't look like anybody else wants to have a chat in the green room with us. So with that being said, that will conclude round 2 here at Spa in the LMU GT3 Championship on Fridays. Next races coming up, we have on Sunday with the ACC GT3 Championship, Following that, we have the GT4 rookies on Mondays. Then on Tuesdays, we go back to Le Mans Ultimate in the Hypercar and GT3 Multi-Class Championship before going back to ACC Multi-Class. Or I should say we have 3 Multi-Class Championships lined up in a row. Tuesday, we've got Le Mans Ultimate. Wednesday, we go to ACC for the GT3s and the GT4s. Then Thursday is the iRacing Multi-Class with the LMP2s and the GT3s. And then Friday here, we have our finale of the 3-round championship at the Circuit de la Sarthe. So be sure to tune in for that with all of the tire updates and all of the other updates coming to Le Mans Ultimate. That will certainly be something to look for here this evening. Our friend Eric's got a raid ready. Make sure to stick around and show the support from Trackalicious to our other fellow sim racing communities. Thanks to Next Level Racing for providing us this lovely desk here and all that they do for us in the background as well. Big shout out to the managers, the admins, the stewards of all of the leagues, and a big thank you to everybody participating and watching along. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream this evening. I certainly did. So, absolutely, Big Grid is really fun and hard to keep up with. So, oh, and I should mention !SimGrid will get you to all of those signups for the championship. And with that, we will see you all next time.